And now for something completely different, something incredibly poignant. In October, all around the world, people of all ages remember the work and important events in the history of the African diaspora. Black History Month is nearing an end, but one man that can offer an insight into Jamaican culture as an award-winning screenwriter and author is Jay Mullings. Jay was brought up by the Windrush generation grandparents to whom he attributes a lot of his success, and we're delighted to say Jay joins us on the line this morning. Jay, a warm welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. How important in this day and age, in this the 21st century, is Black History Month?
Black History Month is very important. It's an opportunity to look back at some of the, like as you mentioned, hard work that's been done throughout the entire African diaspora and the Caribbean diaspora. But also it's an opportunity to look at the present and look at things that we can do in the future to make sure that this culture stays alive and stays vibrant.
Now, I know that you're on a mission to share your thoughts and lessons, particularly to other aspiring black writers, but can we learn from you this morning, please, Jay? What do you want to get across most to us this morning?
What I want to get across the most is that everyone has this hidden depth to them that they're probably not aware of. Everyone has the ability to do better than they're currently doing. And everyone has the ability to achieve these goals that they've been told were impossible. That's the one thing I could get across, that would be it.
Does colour matter these days?
Colour matter?
Is it something we should even be focusing on?
It shouldn't be a focus, but it's something that people need to be very aware of, yes. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking there is this hideous rise of the far right throughout the world, and we've come on so much in the last few decades as far as racism's concerned. We need to continue to raise awareness of this so that things don't repeat themselves. History doesn't repeat itself.
I think what's the most important is that, people are taking at face value for who they are as opposed to what race they're from, but also that if people are being held back from opportunities because of their race, then that's important that we highlight those issues.
Now, there's some incredibly famous people to have come out of Jamaica. What is it about Jamaican culture that gives people the will to succeed and indeed thrive?
I think we're proud people, very proud people, very hardworking, and you've got that lovely sun on your back. It inspires action, inspires youth, it inspires excellence, inspires people to want to move on to bigger things. I think that's what it's about. Jamaica's a magical place.
I haven't been to Jamaica. I have been to the Caribbean, but I suppose Guernsey could be similar in that to that extent. It's a small island. We don't have as much sun as Jamaica does, but because we're a small island, we've had people all over the world, people through history from Guernsey travelling and doing great things. Like I think it was William Lalasha discovering coffee in Costa Rica, that sort of thing.
Yes, because that kind of environment just breeds excellence, it breeds hunger, it breeds ambition. It's obvious there's a bigger world out there to go out and not necessarily conquer, but to go out and share this kind of passion that you have, which is you can only breed these things on these kind of, they're not, I wouldn't say tiny. It's not tiny is not the word, but these smaller geographical locations that kind of open up your imagination to the bigger things out there.
It's been in the news recently, news about the Windrush generation. Now, your grandparents were part of that generation, and I know that you attribute much of your success to your grandparents. Tell us their plight. Tell us what they told you.
My grandparents, they told me a lot, and so it'd be hard to just summarize it into a short conversation, but the plight was that you came to somewhere where you weren't necessarily welcome, even though you came by invitation. It's kind of strange when you think about it. You're invited somewhere that you're not welcome. But also kind of to put that aside and to know what's in your heart and to follow your dreams no matter what anyone else says. They've developed a kind of steely dignity to themselves. They're very, like my grandparents didn't grow up expressing anger. They grew up expressing love. And I think that's the key to everything.
It is the key to everything, I think, and we've had one politician actually talking about whether or not Guernsey's racist recently, and that's because we're not taking refugees from other countries at the moment. What's your stance on this?
on immigration or refugees.
Well, the fact that a comparatively wealthy jurisdiction like Guernsey isn't, at the moment, prepared to take refugees from other countries.
Well, I think that everyone should do the best they can and share what they have if it's possible. I don't know exactly the kind of issues that's preventing you guys from doing that currently, but if you can and you have it in you to accept refugees, you should.
I think the byline of this piece was entitled "Are We a Racist Community?" It was by Deputy Peter Roffey, and it's got lots of people talking, quite rightly. It says here, migrant workers have been coming to Guernsey's shores for generations, and culturally and economically we'd be far poorer without them. But do we as a community treat them as well as we might? What do you make of that?
Well, it's hard to kind of accuse someone of racism on the basis of they're not taking. I need more information, but like I said, if you have a history of inviting immigrants in and they contribute to your community, you should probably continue to do so. It would make sense.
Well, I think doing a programme like this, and my listeners would back me up, I'm sure, we're all better people because of a diverse community.
Agreed.
How would you... This is an impossible question, Jay, but just so we can learn something, how would you sum up black culture in the 21st century? Where's it going and what are we doing with it?
I wouldn't sum it up at all. I'd say black culture is boundless, and I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's there. We're seeing now that there's no cap to what is possible if you come from the black culture. Before there were these questions of marketability, and can you reach wider audiences and move people, and can you operate businesses at the highest? That's all going away now. I think you're going to start seeing the culture really come into its own. That's not a summing up. I'm sorry, but I feel like we're nowhere near reaching our zenith yet.
And my 11-year-old is absolutely obsessed with lots of black rap artists, and I listen to some of the lyrics. I think there's one that's had me in tears. It's "I'm Not a Racist," and it is just incredible. Some of the poetry that's coming out of these people. They're fantastic role models for young people. In some cases, I think there's a little bit of language used that has to be put into context. But do you think there is a need for more black culture in music, in mainstream music? Is there enough?
There's a need for more black culture being represented in the media or across the board. As a screenwriter, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, bring my stories to the public's attention. And it's not just a black culture thing. It's about telling stories from a different perspective. And that goes across music, photography, writing, any kind of creative art you can think of. It would be best if you could blend this culture into... Britain's meant to be a multicultural society. The world is meant to be multicultural. Black culture should be included in that. I
think, and this goes for issues relating to disability. I often say this on the programme. We're all scared of treading on eggshells. We're all scared of using the wrong language. We're fearful of offending people these days. Do you think that's part of the problem?
I wouldn't. No. Being scared of offending people, I don't think that's the right kind of way of summing it up. Everyone should be able to be as truthful as possible. What we shouldn't allow is ignorance. Ignorance is what we need to get rid of. If you're scared of something because you don't know any better, educate yourself. That's pretty much how you avoid offending people. If someone brings something to your attention that they find offensive, it's within your power to understand that and change that. I think if people are more open and honest and try to learn instead of trying to come at things with absolutes, I think we can all get along, we can all coexist, and we can all thrive.
Well, Black History Month is an annual observance in Canada, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands and the United States. It began as a way of remembering important people and events in the history of the African diaspora. What are you working on next as a Black British screenwriter yourself, Jay? Can you educate us through your work?
Yeah, sure. What's immediately in the pipeline is my film that I've been working on. I've been working on a film called The Jam. It's a factual documentary based on my life as a writer and a creative and the people around me and what kind of led to me choosing my path. It's kind of like a complete look into how I've become what I've become, but also encouraging other people to kind of follow their pursuits along the way.
And
So
tell
that's
us
coming
about
next year.
tell us about your background and how you got into writing, because you've won more than 24 writing awards.
My background is not a linear one. I was born in London, moved to Jamaica when I was 7. I came back when I was 16. When I came back, I was told that IT was the thing, and I studied computers. Didn't really enjoy it. Did a 9 to 5. During that time, I did sports writing, music writing, PR writing. I did all different types of writing samples alongside my poetry and writing short stories. And then when I tried to go to university to do creative writing, I was told that because I wasn't from an English literature, drama, or performing arts background, they wouldn't allow me onto the course, even though I had these many writing samples behind me. Eventually, I did film and television, and that kind of opened my eyes to different versions of storytelling. And then I realized that my kind of style was more suited to the screen, be it the big screen or the silver screen. And then I just put my talent into action and started writing on my own. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where I've gotten to. It was filtering out everyone else and following what I felt was right for me.
And having absolute determination to get there.
Absolutely.
While you were talking, I was reminded of a recent news story, and that's the story of Stormzy, a rap artist, announcing that he will fund 2 black British students to go to the University of Cambridge. The Stormzy Scholarship is going to pay for tuition fees and provide a maintenance grant as well for up to 4 years of an undergraduate course. Stormzy says it's so important for black students especially to be aware that it can be 100% an option to attend a university of this calibre. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that move?
Well, big up to Stormzy. It's a big move, but then it also kind of highlights how sad it is that this kind of move is necessary in the first place.
Yeah, quite.
These kind of options should already be available, and it should already be into the consciousness that it's something to attain and work towards. So, props for him stepping in like that. But again, it kind of highlights the need for change.
Which is why I said at the start of this interview about racism in the 21st century, because of moves like that, I'm amazed and disappointed that we aren't thinking along those lines already, and that we have to rely on, to a degree, tokenism by people like Stormzy. It's quite shocking, actually, isn't it?
Well, he's trying to eliminate tokenism by making it the norm. It's not really tokenism on his part. He's identified a problem and he's putting in work to find a solution. I think what we should take away from that is the need for change on a wider scale. So it's not necessary for, the Stormzys of the world to have to do this.
Yes, quite. But you would have thought that would have been effected in the 21st century already.
Yes, but then, look at the Windrush, the circumstances under which the Windrush generation were brought over. Like I said, they were invited, but they weren't welcome. So it's really a continuation of that kind of culture of not dealing with the ignorance of people. So
yeah,
it doesn't
quite.
surprise me.
We've only just effected disability legislation here on our little island. Jay, let's not go there, but thank you so much for teaching us so much. And feel free to come back onto BBC Radio Guernsey anytime you've got an important message to get across to us. We're listening.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Jay Mullings there, who was brought up by the Windrush generation grandparents to whom he attributes a lot of his success. I suspect his drive and determination has a lot to do with it. He's an award-winning screenwriter and author. He's Jay Mullings, and October marks Black History Month. This is BBC Radio Guernsey.